So yeah, welcome everyone, both in person and online. Thank you so much for joining today, and welcome to the BRC Junior Faculty bite-sized seminar on how to effectively communicate your research. Although I'm sure Simon will have a much catchier title than that when he completes this talk. So just a quick formality for those in the room. If there is a fire alarm, we can lead out the back, and there's actually a fire exit just here. So don't go running towards where you came in. There's a fire exit right here. So we're not expecting alarm, so hopefully there won't be one. And yeah, just to point out that the meeting is being recorded, so yeah, just so you know. But today we have a fantastic speaker with us. His name is Simon Cain. He is the CEO and founder of Westbourne Training and Consulting.
Well, but there is only me. So life president, yeah.
So over the past 25 years, he's delivered workshops to a wide range of organizations within health and research, including many, including the NIHR, Health Education England, numerous NHS trusts, and has also worked for over 40 universities and medical schools across the UK and supported 400 plus individuals with their pitch for a funding grant. So we're incredibly fortunate to have you here with us today. We will also hear from Ofram, who has volunteered to give a short presentation, which we will then discuss as part of Simon's presentation. And what's really important is that we want today to be really interactive, so please feel free to ask questions throughout and respond to Simon's cues and prompts. And online also, please put your questions in the chat, and we will be monitoring it all the time. So yeah, thank you. And
great stuff. No, thank you. So I won't say anything more about myself, but what I wanted to say is it's really interactive today, so please chip in as much as you can. Apologies if I've met any of you before, and I use some similar examples. It's not boring. I hope there's some new ones. Is there anything you wanted from today's session? So from my point of view, it's about pitching. But what we can do is we can kind of focus on pitching and at the same time get to grips with everything there is to do about presenting. We're trying to do both. But if you want to fire away, if there's anything you would like me to cover, and that's for people online as well, just let me know and I'll make sure that we do that. So did anyone have anything they'd like us to cover?
When we're writing grants and there's like really short word counts, but you're trying to discuss something quite nuanced and technical, that's the thing I'm really struggling with getting in.
Okay. Yes, and then in the pitch is even worse, if you think how short that could be. Okay, so like cramming it all in, is that? That's what it is. In a pitch, that's really what it's about, to be honest, yeah.
Focusing on the Q&A session as well as the talk.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
I was going to say, sometimes there's like two different audiences. So there is, if you're thinking about commercialization, there's that kind of audience.
Sure.
Then the academic audience. So
Yes.
how to, I guess, direct it to each of those. So specifically those two, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And in reality, you might have two more.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a health-rated one, you might have patient, public health, engagement reps, and then the funder who won't speak. They will be there as well. And sometimes they'll overrule the academics on a panel because I think sometimes they decide in advance they want someone. Do you know, they like what they're going to do, or they like their trajectory, or they want them. I mean, funders have told me that in the past, which I think kind of is unfair. But so I think there's four audiences sometimes. But yes, how do you appeal to all of them? Okay. Were there any others? Yeah. Oh, you're scratching your head. Were there any online? Any things that people wanted to cover? Fine, okay, no problem. So I'll do my best to include those. The way it's going to work is we're going to hear a pitch to start with. I thought, what better way to hear a real one? Can I get you to chip in with your feedback? And then what I'll try and do is use this as an example to sort of backtrack and say, well, perhaps you could try this, or we need more on that, or that's missing, or whatever comes out. So, and you're not 100%, are you, my friend? So well done for.
Not to touch your computer.
Okay, hang on, let me just get rid of this one for a second. Right. So.
I do my practice bit. I'll stick to the.
Don't worry. Just do what you can. Yeah,
okay. I'll use.
You've got.
So I don't
okay.
touch that.
Yeah. No. Sure. All right.
Okay.
So yeah, is that offering? Are you happy if people give you feedback on what they like or any suggestions?
Absolutely. Yeah. Please rip me apart. I'm not precious about this.
So this is a grant proposal that I've submitted to stage 1, RFPB, but then the real work begins if we get accepted at stage 1 to then fill in a proper application for
Often is this NIHR?
NIHR, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So the grant is for research for patient benefit, which you probably all know. The study is looking at acute rejection in children who had a kidney transplant. So there are a number of reasons why. So what we see is the kidney or the creatinine rising, which is called AKI, and that could be either due to acute rejection post-transplant, or it can be due to the cocktail of drugs that they receive. So not knowing where, the only way to know where this is coming from, whether it was an acute rejection episode, or is due to the drugs, or anything else, is to do a kidney biopsy. And when we do it, and that's obviously a big thing to do, a biopsy to confirm it. But if there was a way that we could, from the patient characteristics and the way they present, we can identify what's the most likely cause of this. In many cases, this this AKI plateaus, and so the patient, we wouldn't, and the clinicians then decide not to do the kidney transplant. So it's unknown whether this patient actually had an acute rejection or not, and that impacts on the future life of the kidney on the transplant. So I think I said the background. So as I said, it's diagnosed by acute rise in creatinine, we don't know. So the most common causes of the rejection of acute AKI is infections, rejection, transplant, and side effects from the anti-rejection drugs, as I said before. So the purpose of this study is to get patients from Great Ormond Street Hospital and understand the main causes of AKI in children after they've had an acute kidney transplant. And the goal is then to improve how we classify and treat AKI based on whether this was rejection or wherever else it's coming from, and maybe decide who needs a biopsy most appropriately. So just because the creatinine plateaued, maybe they still need a biopsy given the characteristics that they've had before, so that's to improve that. So what we're going to do is to gather and clean data from electronic health records, and then we're going to identify key patient characteristics that may contribute to AKI, and then use certain statistical methods. We were thinking of causal mediation analysis, but we need to understand whether we have enough in the data first or not, and that's part of the project. And then prepare, once we have that done, and we have something that works, we could prepare code to share this code rather than the data with other data partners, with other hospitals, so they can run exactly the same code, and then we can get results from a bigger cohort to a multi-center, but without sharing data, and that would be a type of federated analysis that we do. We have a really good team, and particularly we have some really expert methodologists on the team, and we have two patients, we have two members of the public. One is a kidney transplant patient, and one is her sister, so we can get perspective from the family as well as the patient. And this matters because we want to help clinicians make better decisions on who must have biopsy, improve early detection of AKI, provide longer-term care for transplant patients, and allow future international collaboration. So if we know how this is done properly, we can then build the code for future, for other teams to use it just by running the code. In terms of dissemination, we'll share these through medical conferences and publications, but most importantly with patient groups. And in fact, the two members of the public, their role in the grant application is to be the strategic lead for the PPI or the patient public involvement. So they can help us decide how to carry out rather than doing it themselves. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Right, Offren, is that all right if we just say what we think? Can I let you go first? You're the panel. What do you like? Can we be direct? Is that
Please
right?
be as direct as you like. Yeah, I appreciate that.
No, sure, because you're going to go for this. So what you like, anything you change?
I really like your multidisciplinary team slide. I think that was very clear, and it was obvious to see that you've really thought about who you would need to be involved to make this work. It's nice and clean and simple. What I thought could be better in terms of how good that is having fewer words than some of the other slides, like the third one, like drugs was cool because that's all I saw. So yeah, maybe some of the other ones could be simplified down.
Yeah, that was a bit of a rubbish slide.
And then also one towards the end where you talked about like the international collaboration. Yeah, this one. Where the one after. Yeah, you could have the keywords would stand up also like the last point, just international collaboration, and then you talk about it, and then I would see the great things that you're going to do. Long-term care, international collaboration.
Yeah, it's a bit wordy, I agree. Now that I've seen it.
And especially that bit, just like at the top, that's almost your script.
Yeah, that's true.
So we can kind of remove that, and I think we're kind of better decision making, better treatment outcomes, improved patient. Shorter, bulleted, punchy. Okay. Yeah, that's good stuff. What else do we think?
Just the way you divided the first couple of slides, because you even said yourself, you said some of the things you wrote on the second slide, on the first slide.
Yes.
And because the second slide is so wordy, you might be able to divide it a little bit more.
Yes.
So that one
I realised my
so
mistake.
much
Yeah.
work.
The first slide was just the title, and I ended up talking about the second slide while I was the title bit. So
Okay.
that was a bit rubbish.
Yeah. No, that's fine. What I'm going to suggest in a moment is when we go to a pitch, just try to never speak to the title.
Yes.
Just never speak to it, because it will be either face to face or online. It will be there. The panel will be looking at it before you arrive. Just try and watch straight into the pitch, which will be your next.
By the way, did I stick to time, or was it?
No, but I thought it was about 6 and a bit. And if I'm being really cheeky, we've done the P, the first P, the project. We've still got here the rest of the P's and so on. So we're going to have to kind of really concentrate on that. Even though it might seem pretty boring. Okay. What else do people think?
I have a question about stats. So is it better to say we will do stats but we don't know, or is it better to say we want to do this and just stick with that? Obviously, stats can change as you get more data, but I don't know what comes across better if you kind of say, we'll do stats.
In the pitch, try and be as absolute as you can without saying something ludicrous, but try and stronger statements if we can, and then in the Q&A we can go into all the detail of that.
Someone online said, Jennifer, do you have any real life stories to include?
As in patient stories, okay?
I thought about that, yes we do, that's why I have patients in the panel, but to include that in the pitch I thought it would be really long.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, we'll look at that, because if it is clinical based, I think there's 3 things. We want kind of global stats, ideally, the scale of this problem. An individual patient case study is really good. But then also we want to build you in about what your background is, what your achievements are. I'm going to show you an example in a minute that will do those 3 things. That's quite useful.
Can I ask something as well?
Sure.
In terms of my background, I thought because this is a grant application rather than a fellowship application, then my background doesn't come into it, rather the group, the team comes into it.
Okay, but even so,
So that's why I put the team as a collective rather than me. But I think if this was a fellowship application, yes, I would put a slide of me.
But even, if I'm being really kind of critical, that doesn't kind of sell the quality. All it says is there's like a pharmacist, there's whoever.
Yes.
They do need more. They need more, and they want to know what your back. Have you worked together before? What's their expertise? All of it links to what you just said in the project part. Were there any other bits of feedback?
I think there was one more online from Olivia that said, would you need to include how much money you are asking for, and would it cover the entire study or just one aspect of the work?
Okay. Normally, and actually every pitch I've ever worked on, money's never been mentioned in the pitch. I think they kind of, in the application it's there. Sometimes they don't like how much you're asking for, and they'll ask something about is this value for money? And if I've been really direct, at welcome, quite often, how much you ask for as a kind of direct correlation to whether you get the grant. So I sent you out, I've done 12 Discovery Awards in the last 2 years, and 8 have got it, but they're the 8 cheapest. And the 2 that I thought were outstanding were just pricier, and then, I don't know, I think there is something to that. There is something also in this about trying to say where the value for money is.
So because this is stage 1, there was no budget in it.
Okay.
They said indicative.
Okay, fair enough.
So then if they like the idea of the project, I think that's when you start to provide a budget. So at this stage, you have to say, this is going to cost us in the region of.
Yeah. And they some of the funds will then come back to you and say, but just make sure it's not more than this.
Yes.
You know, they might already have,
expensive.
especially if they like it, they might do that. Okay.
Does anyone like my horse?
Does anyone like the horse?
How did you come up with stars?
Yeah, I was looking at
Yeah.
the horse and I was
It's
just
called analysis of
listening to what was
transmasculine
going on. Because I was trying to make sense of what's
I think I love that.
connected.
I love that, and I think it's really big. The title's really mind limited. The title, I find it hard to get my head around that title.
Yeah,
A little
so
bit.
I put this was analysis of computer into a thing, into an AI thing. They gave me 360. And by the time I trawled through them, I wanted something that
Okay.
took a letter from every single word, and this was the only one that wasn't
I know.
absolutely ridiculous. Like, one of them was castrated. It's
It's
just-
memorable,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's just some really hilarious ones with
Yes,
jokes.
I know.
So
Okay.
yeah, I stopped halfway through and said,
Okay.
but I think I know I should come up with something better.
No, that's fine. All right then. Can I try and fill in some of the gaps in it?
Please do, yeah.
So what I'm going to do is, can I try and give you some examples that might help? And I'm going to be sort of quite direct about what I think might work. Let me just show you an example. Do you know, first things first, this is an NIHR grant.
Yes.
So you're only going to get 5 minutes,
Yes.
probably. All their grants that I know of are 5 minutes. And I'm just going to show you this to start with. A classic NIHR grant, this is the structure that I would use, or have done. And I'm going to get you all of this. I'll send you. But you know, we're talking about the 3 Ps. It's like the project. I suspect what they want is immediately, what's the problem you're trying to address? What's the scale of it? What are the implications? What precisely are you trying to do? How are you going to do it? How are patients or the public involved? And unfortunately, you probably have to squeeze that in 3 minutes. I would say 60% of the pitch like this on the project. I know it's not a fellowship. If it was, this is for a fellowship where you would have a development plan, but I still think you need to showcase the people
Yes, yeah.
a little bit more. And I think you need to showcase UCL, Institute of Child Health, I don't know, UCLH, whichever collaborators you've got, plus the impact. So we are going to have to try and condense everything. And so can I just make some suggestions in what I do? So I guess the first thing, and maybe some of you who have met me before have seen this one, we need to try to cover the first 2 steps, the problem and the aim, in a split second. And what we want to try and say, this is a problem, this is the scale of it, these are the implications, this is precisely what I want to do, ideally in 30 seconds. Can I show you this one to see what you think?
Yeah.
This theme also will be throughout all the slides. When I say graphic, not as in graphic carnage, but not text. So do you know all your boxes? I think panels would just glaze over. And I've been really,
Yes,
really
I
rude.
know.
Do you know if it's
Yeah.
the 8th pitch that day and they seem
Just millions.
too much, it's too, I'm having to work too hard. The other thing is, I don't want you to read ahead. You know, with your slides, there's not animations. I will try and make them wait.
Say no animations.
But all the funders mean videos. So you can.
You can pick through the slides.
Or we could have 50 slides, so it looks like animation. Let me just do this one and see what you think. This guy said, this photograph was taken in Cape Town 2 years ago, where I was working as a surgeon. On one weekend, 20 people lost their lives through car crashes, and over 100 had life-changing injuries. Incredibly, injuries kill more people globally than HIV, TB, and malaria combined. In fact, injuries are the commonest cause of death for 10 to 49-year-olds globally, and over 90% of injuries take place in low to middle income countries where they're least equipped to deal with the complexities of them. It's such a global priority that the Lancet's Commission on Global Surgery has put open fractures as their #1 priority, which is a common outcome from injuries. That's why me at Oxford, along with the University of Cape Town, want to answer this one research question. How can the outcomes of open fractures be improved in low resource settings? Really fast. Problem, the scale of it, the metrics, what we're going to do about it. Really fast, really fast. Is that all right? Can I show a different one, which is the same section, the opening section, but what this person's doing is we're trying to show a patient example, we're trying to show global stats, and we're trying to weave in how much she's already contributed to this topic. This is an advanced fellowship at NIHR, 5 minutes again. The title has gone, okay? Oh, is it gone? It's It's in there, sorry. We did 2 versions of it, ignore that bit. Okay, straight into a story. I say story, tragedy. When you think of opioids, you think of fentanyl, 86,000 deaths a year in the States, a complete crisis. But actually the UK prescribes more opioids than any other country per capita in the world. 1 in 20 of us take opioids. They're highly linked to deprivation and they cause serious consequences, financially, but for each individual patient. I want to make us opioid smart, and I have a track record of doing that already. So 8 years ago, I set up CROP, a campaign to reduce opioid prescribing, and I work with every GP practice in Leeds, Bradford to try and reduce their prescriptions of opioids. I provide them with data every month for 12 months to try and reduce the number. By the end of 1 year, we have 15,000 fewer people taking opioids, saving us £900,000 on prescription costs alone. Since then, I've gone to work on 1,000 GP practices and been featured on the One Show. And behind all these global stats is a human tragedy. This is one person who we took off opioids. He said, look, I'm a changed person. I can focus on things, I can do stuff. Before, I was just a blank person. So it's kind of lightning fast, but we're trying to get a patient voice in there, we're trying to get global stats in there, we're trying to get her in there. I'm just going to show those examples so you can get an idea. This is doing it the other way round, where you're going to start with, actually you're going to just start with someone. There is kind of a shocking photo. I don't know what you think about that. I sort of think, why hide from it if this is what the situation is about? So this is a guy from Leeds saying, can ambulatory blood pressure measurement help reduce falls in older adults? We didn't talk about it. That was just there while the chair did his or her thing. We're going to start with the patient story. So Metan, and 76 years old, she came out of the bathroom, fell, hit her head and fractured her hip. Since then she's refused to leave home. 1 in 3 people over 70 will fall every year. At the same time, 2 in 3 people over 70 take medication to reduce blood pressure. These 2 things don't work in alignment. The more you take blood pressure tablets, the more likely you are to fall. And at the moment, we simply cannot manage or tailor treatments to both reduce falls and manage cardiovascular risk. Is that all right? We're kind of in a really, is this making sense to you? So you've got really fast, this is the problem, scale of it, this is the aim. It's not very scientific because you suddenly kind of have to do it really, really high level.
So I have a question. You were talking about using kind of graphic images, and I was wondering, like, do you have any suggestions? So say, for example, we had someone present, and there were patients, and like today, was in the room, and they showed a joint injection video, and that was kind of alarming to them, and they weren't kind of warned beforehand. Do you think that, especially with like lay members in the panel, like
I think so. Yes, even members of the panel might not. Yes, I think you can warn people. But I wouldn't shy away from it. The people are quite often quite resilient, quite demanding anyway. But is that all right so far? So the first thing is try and get their attention, show the gap in our knowledge, the problem we're trying to address, the scale of it, the implications. Are other people trying to do it? What's unique about your one? Is that all right? All within the first. I just thought of this one. Do you know, in terms of a kidney one, this is someone I helped. You know, you had about, was it 8 boxes? I just wonder whether we can use sort of infographic type of
sorry, that was me trying to get rid of bullet points.
Oh, okay.
And it turned into boxes. Tried to get infographics and they went ridiculous.
Okay.
So I went back to the boxes and I knew they were wrong.
I think, you know, we had 8, we probably have to have 4.
Yeah,
and we need to make them easier.
I didn't have time, sorry.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. So, do you know, this person is at King's. I think they're more junior to you, but it's a simple one. But they're saying that type 2 diabetes diagnoses have tripled in the last 6 years. At the same time, we've seen a huge jump in the rates of chronic kidney disease. And these 2 things in combined mean that 40% of people with type 2 diabetes will now develop CKD. And actually, diabetes-based CKD is the commonest cause of renal failure, the commonest cause for dialysis, and the commonest need for kidney transplantation. Do you know, it's kind of quick and it's simple. We probably do need to make it. Absolutely. Is that right? No. These are really easy to get hold of. In terms of PowerPoint, I would animate things and I would make everything where you can symmetrical. Just an ease of processing. Is that one?
Question
Yeah.
about
the timing of when you say something
Yeah.
and when it appears.
Yes.
Which is best.
I think this is being really direct. The worst thing to me is to show them all of that.
Yeah.
And while I'm talking about that one, you think, well, I've read it all.
Yeah.
So the other option is called click and talk, which is what most people do. They'll say rates of type 2 diabetes have increased threefold in the last 6 years, and then people tend to look at the screen. That in combination with rising rates, but I think everyone's looking that way. So could we try and lead? Could we try and lead? In a pitch, I think they should see you delivering it, and that backs it up. Is that all right? You should be able to do that. I would do that in every presentation, to be honest. Okay, so I think that's all very well. Should we have a look at project plans? So I actually thought, well, this is for the first part of the pitch. You know the bit that you did, 3 minutes. These are the kind of questions we're doing. We've done those so far, but now we need this one. How are you going to do it? So let me give you some examples of those. I'll come back to that one. I'll show you in a minute. Actually, can I just show you one extra thing for a second? Do you know the idea that your Saracen title? So, could we not show that first?
Yeah.
And I'll explain why.
At the end, yeah.
Have a look at that one. What do you think of that slide as an opening slide?
I'm going to start looking at the letters.
Yeah, because it's not as bad as Saracen. I don't know what you think of that. I just glazed over when I saw it.
Yeah.
And then it had gone before we knew it, and there's a wall of text. I mean, it's interesting, but you kind of think, can we do better than that, quicker than that? So what we're going to do is, even if you've shown a title when you come in, you can. The title is often the aim of the talk.
Yes.
I'll show you what I mean. So instead of doing that, this is how we changed it. We're going to jump straight into the problem with just simple graphics. Okay, 1 in 4 young people in Britain have self-harmed. If you self-harm, your risk of suicide is elevated 50 times. We know there are tried and tested psychosocial interventions that work, but the reality that over 98% of young people who self-harm is they get nowhere near that. What they get is 10 minutes in their doctor's surgery with a GP who's completely ill-equipped to deal with the complexities of self-harm. That's why we need coping. Coping is a toolkit designed by GPs in conjunction with young people who self-harm to provide the first layer of support for a population who are completely underserved. I think it flows. So I know this is a very basic example, but we need it to flow to do it faster for the audience to. Okay, is that okay? Okay, so when it comes to the project plan, you sort of had a list, but for once we need more detail. So can we squeeze the front and then a little bit more detail on the project plan? I think it has to be a schematic. It has to be. I'm only showing you this one because what we want is that you can almost work out intuitively what's going to happen. So this person is going to do home monitoring of 200 homes in Leeds. They're going to do an environmental audit of every property, combined with physiological measurements of every person who lives in those properties. Then we're going to do mathematical machine learning on, well, we can kind of intuit as we go through what's going to happen. So they probably do need to understand each work package or each research aim. I'm going to show you 3 examples. I know this one is a bit busy, but what we're going to work towards is what do we do in this section? Do you think that's too busy, by the way? Is it borderline too busy? Okay. We could animate it, so I'll give you examples. At least when you see it, look, you can see 2 work packages. Work package 1, 3 elements. I love it when there's a question. 3 questions, the methodology and the timeline. So there is a neatness about it. This one here, I like it. I like it because it goes left to right. It doesn't take that long because we've probably got 30 seconds to do it, to do the project plan. So it does need to be as simple and easy as possible. The 3 critical things for me for every work package is, can we have, and I know it's not, a research question, the methodology, and then an outcome. Those are the 3 things I think a panel need for every work package. If you can make it a question, it's really much better. We're unfolding this as we go along, just so it's, so it's not so overwhelming. So package 2 is about, can we run a feasibility randomised controlled trial? The methodology, there's no outcome here because in work package 3, we do that, the qualitative element, and then there's a joint outcome for both. But all we want here is nuts and bolts, step-by-step plan. And then one final one for you. This is not a great example, if I'm honest. This guy got an MRC Clinician Scientist Award. But the one thing to put in here is, you know, these are very sort of fact-based descriptions. This guy got turned down the first time because they said to him, look, you need to, this is the surgeon one actually, they said you need to get 195 hospitals and 87 health centres to work with you, plus 54 orthopaedic hospitals. They kind of said to him, you won't be able to do it. In South Africa, they're too poor. You know, the kind of resources are too scarce, they're just not going to engage with you. And someone on the panel was the South African clinician, annoyingly, who was the ringleader. So we went back, it is a bit militant, but he was kind of saying, here's what I'm doing in work package 1. There are 282 sites we need to engage with. 45% have signed up even before the funding's been given. 54 orthopaedic hospitals, 60% have already signed up. It shows you this is a research priority for clinicians out there, and there is an appetite to be involved. And in the last one, he's linking work package 3 and saying this is actually the top research priority decided by ISAP. So you're trying to show factual stuff here, but you're also trying to show feasibility, always. Do you know the Wellcome Trust? All you'll hear from them is ambition, bold, creative, a step change, a paradigm shift. When you get in the room, they'll be saying, how do you know that's going to work? How are you going to recruit 400 people? What if this goes wrong? Well, what experience have you got? Well, who's going to do that part? It's all detail mechanics. So what the funder says and what the panel says, this bit's really, really, they'll kind of pick this apart if they can. Is that all right? Is that all right so far? Okay. I think the final missing bit from your your sort of thing is a PPIE. Do you know, it is absolute, you just can't get funded. Anything remotely clinical, medical health, you just can't get funded without this. You know this already. Do you know the pillars of patient and public involvement? If you're a clinician, definitely you have to have it. Even if not, you might need to into it. The bottom line is they want to know, have patients shaped the research priority? And if I'm being really honest, those people I work, they haven't really shaped it. But people have to try and demonstrate, you know, they have. That the health, and they're going to be involved in every single stage of the project. So all these are examples of doing it. These are non-clinicians doing it. This is that anxiety.
Sorry, I just assumed by saying they are co-applicants, they would convey the message that they did get involved in the application process.
Oh yes, but I suppose
they wrote it with us.
Oh, okay, that's good. Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know whether I should have elaborated on that then, because they were co-applicants.
Did you say there were 2 of them as well?
Yes.
I think they'll just that's not enough, and they want to sort of say, who else did you consult?
But they are the applicants who will help us form the strategy for people.
Yes.
So probably,
yeah.
I should have explained it better.
I think this is this guy is a non-clinician actually, but even here, and this is kind of a good example. He is saying these are 3 pre-research stages and 3 sort of during the research, and here's how patients are going to be involved. It's all about using VR for a psychiatric disorder. They're going to kind of be involved in the acceptability survey, in piloting it, and then also in recruiting patients. And then during it, X, Y, and Z. I think panels like that level of detail, rather than saying, yeah, they're going to be involved. They want to see mechanics of it. And one thing you might do, if you are doing this, here's a project plan. I think most funders like it if you show a PPIE involvement with the key stages they're going to be involved. It is getting more demanding, more sophisticated. This person's not clinical, pure research. She's got 3 groups that she's going to work with, and she's kind of showing the key stages there. It is a bigger thing. It's all part of research culture as well. So even if you're not a clinician, they're just expecting a bit more.
I was asked about pictures. So when I was putting pictures in, I thought they were just a bit too adolescent, so I took them out.
Oh, okay.
I just thought it needs to be a bit more grown up. And more professional, and I think I got a bit saturated with everyone putting pictures
I know.
everywhere.
I know.
But then everything I saw here just now is just full of cartoon pictures.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind
I know.
diagrams that convey a message,
Mm.
but everything is a cartoon picture.
Yeah, no,
And
no,
I
I'm
just
not
got fed
what
up
you
with
mean.
cartoon
Yeah,
pictures,
no,
but that's probably just me.
No, it's not
But
just
if
you.
that's what the funders want, I can fill it up with cartoons.
I just think whatever's quickest to process.
Yeah, no, I just don't know how would I completely misunderstood it then.
I think here.
It's still not cartoons.
I think this one's okay though. I
Yes.
do think this thing's going to be like trivial and silly. At least that's just autistic at the main charity.
Yeah, that's fine,
and
and that's
I
absolutely
think
fine.
it's-
But
yeah,
looking
that
at
one-
the first picture with the thing.
I think with those glasses, it looks like some sort of librarian going to tell you
Yeah.
what they're talking in there. Yeah, I know. But I think I would change the left one actually. But obviously for parents of children, the charity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What software do you use for reference?
All of it is from a site called Flat Icon.
Flat
Flaticon.com. There's just the kidney dialysis ones.
Yes.
I put in kidney dialysis and I think there were 470 to choose from. They're all free and they're all quite good quality. I've got a list of where stuff comes from to give you. Do you know then if you don't like, I would rather this, especially because you're clinical. This has got a guy who's doing stuff on prostate cancer and that's his PPI group. Do you know 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer, but 3 in 8 Afro-Caribbean men will. So this was to try and look at underserved community. I think even in a crass way, just looking at that image is more believable. They're like everyday people.
Yes, exactly. So
They
a
just-
bunch of cartoons.
For sure. They're like real people. Or this one here, she's doing a nature-based postnatal depression. They just look like they don't look like middle class, articulate, high. They don't look like kind of people who normally take on PPI roles. And this one here, is this thing I think is quite important that we're looking at inner city London, we're looking at kind of coastal Kent, which has got a lot of poverty, and then the northeast of England. So it's not just an ethnic thing or a disability thing or a gender thing. I think it's just regional. Is that all right? Okay. So does that make sense so far? Do you know in terms of those 3 Ps? Did you have any comments or any questions? So far, anything you do like, anything you don't like?
I want to ask you about color and font size.
Oh, okay.
In recommendations.
Yeah.
There isn't, and this there isn't an ideal number or just color, but do we go for dark or do we go for brighter colors? Do we what color do we play that sort of regard?
I will include in your notes a bit about people with, who've got colour blindness, because there's some conditions or some things we need to take into account for them. For me, can we just go for contrast? The biggest contrast, the better. For me, white and black, or I prefer actually black on white. Really, really strong contrast. And then, do you know here, I just think...
Simon, can you quickly repeat that question for online and then...
Oh, sorry, the actual question.
They couldn't, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so sorry everyone, the question was about font size and best kind of colour coordinations and so on. Let me just give you a quick example. For me, I like this, for example. Do you know, I like black with white. I think it doesn't matter what way you around to do it, but really strong contrasts. And then I think we just make the text, ignore that one for a second. Just make the text, I just think, look at it, it's like, is it big enough?
This animation I like because it's sensitive.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. And also, I think, just as this is an example, can slides move quite quick?
Yeah.
So this guy's saying people are willing to accept that certain things are highly heritable, like eye colour. We know 98% of eye colour is heritable. What they're less likely to accept is, we know that one's like that, is weight, which is 80%, and school achievement, even more controversial, is 60%. That animation is much more engaging.
Yes, exactly. And
But
it's
even-
not cartoon.
And there's complete symmetry there.
Yeah.
Yes, you don't have to do cartoons.
Yes.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Okay.
Just real clarity. If the graphics look alright then,
Yes.
that's still yeah. I think
No, this
only
is fine.
Yeah. No.
So these are really good with
What about that one
percentages.
then? What about that one?
Yeah, that's what I find a problem with. I just
I don't-
engage
I
on
don't-
it. I completely switch off when I see
Okay,
this.
fair
And
enough.
I don't know, it's
Okay.
just me. And because I feel this way, I get a false impression that I
No,
wasn't
no.
doing this.
I know what you mean. The only good thing about this is they are quite specific.
Yeah.
Even like non-communicable diseases with someone coughing.
I thought it was someone crying.
Okay, fair enough. But at least I think get a good
I
connection.
think it's better like that because you're more likely to take in the written point
Yes.
with the picture than you are without the picture.
Yeah.
You know,
I
if
know.
the pictures weren't there, you
Yeah.
have to read it. Like,
Then you're probably right. I don't know why I've got.
I know what you mean.
become a
Yeah.
little cartoons on.
Yeah, what about that one then?
It's a lot, but yes, I would go with this.
Okay.
That's fine.
So do you know, sometimes you can go for busy.
Yes.
Do you know, the symmetry holds together. And we're not expected to analyse all of them. The person doing this simply said these are all examples globally of unregulated employment situations. Millions of workers around the world, you can read it, are exposed to that. How do we break that down? Well, look, incredibly, we've got 3/4 of the world in temporary, informal, unpaid employment. Maybe it's more you'll start to use this sort of thing. 169 migrant workers, etc., and yet, I don't mind, I quite like that, bold statements over the top of.
Yeah, we had a question online saying, how much do you talk about your personal background for grant?
Oh, good question. Can I hold that for just 2 seconds? Yes. Is that all right? Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks very much. Yeah, I do agree. We don't want stuff that looks silly, but we want to get the information across fast.
I mean, I've done seminars for young people and I've filled it full of cartoons.
Yeah, for sure.
Their thing.
No, I know. Yeah. I guess it comes back to, there's quite about 4 audiences. Say, this is an NIHR panel, but it's not a million miles from Welcome or lots of others. The reality is, those 2 will have read your application. They will have read it and they're going to do the interviewing. I almost guarantee the rest of them have not read it. There's just no way. They can't have read yours and 7 others that day.
No, I agree with that because I've
Yeah.
come into contact with
So when you walk in, they kind of they have no idea even who you are, honestly.
Yeah, I've been through that.
Yeah,
They really didn't know, and they were asking questions on the back of someone else's question.
I know. Then you will have, if it's the NIHR,
Yeah.
2 PPIE people, and they will have their moment in the sun when they ask questions. And
They were
then
very
you won't.
good, actually.
Were they? That's good.
Yeah,
They could be really difficult.
They
They
were. I was told they were the most difficult, but they were the best.
Well, that's because you must have pleased them in the pitch. You may not see them, but they'll be there, and they probably won't. I've got that the wrong way around. Sorry. They can be really difficult. They probably won't speak, but they will be.
Very good.
Okay. You need somehow to have one message that fits all. It's really difficult. Really difficult.
Can I jump in with a question about PPIE again?
Yeah.
How much are you expected to have already done leading into your application, your
a
pitch,
fair
as
amount.
opposed to this is what hypothetically I'm going to do all of this?
100% they want to see it already,
Okay.
because but you have to try and sell them this idea that patients or patient need prompted this.
Yeah.
Even if it's purely a scientific. I mean, sometimes the science is so pre-translational, but if you can just show a hint of it.
That's what my question was going to be actually. If you're like carrying out very basic science,
Yes.
very technical,
Exactly.
like lab work stuff, how do you show that that's acceptable?
So I suppose it wouldn't be to the NIHR then,
Yeah.
and then they would accept that. They would accept that.
But it's still, I know for certain things I'm going to, it's still expected that there's a lot of, there is a lot of onus on it.
I know.
But it's difficult getting to the.
But no, and I just think, on that translational pathway, it's more that the basic science might lead to, improved targets, or it might be like 5 steps away. But I think at least they can see that at least if you start with the health issue that maybe it's related to. Yes, but they won't, you can't be expected to have done much more. Is that all right? Is that okay to carry on? So that's 1P, but there are 2 more. So let's have a look at the next bit. Okay, if there's a difference here, like you said, is it a fellowship or is it more like a program grant? If it's a fellowship, you're going to need to do these 2 things. So we've only used up 3 minutes of our 5. We've now probably got a minute to a minute and 20 seconds to try and say, I'm ideally placed to do this. But at the same time, if you fund me, I'll be able to kind of upskill in all these areas. So we'll base it on a fellowship. If it's not a fellowship, you'll skip this bit. And I guess there's 2 things. First of all, this is me being a bit picky. I think sometimes you need someone external to help you do this bit. So I helped this person to do her why me slide, and she said, I don't want to say that, I'm going to cut that one, and I don't, I'll grudgingly say that. But to me, if you're project managing £1 million grant, which she was going to, and you've been head of internal audit at a FTSE 500 company, I think it's entirely pertinent. She was saying that's nothing to do with the research. And I said, but for a funder, most, even NIHR, 9 out of 10 of their funded programs don't lead to any patient benefit. The funders hate it if they think you're going to run out of money or you're not going to be able to deliver it on time. So, you know what it's like. Research is not just about the academic ability, it's can you persuade people to be involved, can you overcome hurdles, can you kind of be creative if your experiments don't work, can you get people to kind of support you. If you've been head of internal audit, that probably means you're kind of a bit aggressive, if I'm honest, a bit of a doer. This one is underselling it. She told me, she gave a talk at the Royal College of Midwives, and the president of the Royal College approached her and said, I would like to mentor you. To me, as a panel member, I think, look, if the president spots you, they must think you're a rising star. So I guess what I'm saying is, can you be a bit shameless? Just a little bit shameless in this area. And even more importantly, this person, she's not clinical. Oh yes, she is clinical, but look, see that one there? Columbia University named her as a global female top 100 contributor last year, and it didn't even appear in her slides. And I think, well, you can't hide that. You can't hide that. 5 awards for your PhD, 100 publications. That's just unbelievable. I mean, she's a really high achieving person. She's so understated, but even that, she's saying loads of people have done that, and I thought, well, I don't know. The reality to her was quite trivial, which it might have been, but the panel might not see it like that. So can you maybe get someone else to look through your CV or your application, highlight stuff that sounds good? You just have to accept the embarrassment of saying, highlights of you, but you've got to, because other people will be in there doing it, I promise you, they really will. These are just 4, I would suggest to you, if you're going to have to do a what you slide, would you be thematic about it and just pick the headings that showcase best? Could be your research skills, could be some of the techniques you've got, projects that you've already worked on, especially if it's connected to the actual project. These are just different examples, but similar. We're picking the ones to showcase their specific skills. Ignore that next one. You could make it shorter. Someone here is doing a bit more example-based. So, for example, at the top right, they've contributed to NICE guidelines, NHS England guidelines. Do you know the James Lind? They set priority partnerships of priorities for specific diseases. She's contributed to the one on HRT, which is what she was working on, and being published in the Lancet. So here that she's contributed to Woman's Hour and done a TEDx talk. So it's kind of a snapshot of what she's done. You can pick how you think it works best. Probably someone at the same level as lots of you. Just 6 things. And if I'm honest, it's trying to connect. It's almost like bingo, trying to connect what the funder likes. So like that one. It is trying to connect with what their priorities are, if you like. This. I really like her, but she's got no concept pushing herself forward. And a very personal one. She's from, she's born in Bradford. She's based in Bradford. I was born there. Part of the South Asian community. She's now a consultant there. She understands the community. Which I think is quite a powerful thing. There's her contributing to the all-party partnership mission on end-of-life care. That's her at this world. Maybe you can put yourself in a slide like this in a very personal way. Maybe not if it's basic science. Maybe not so much then. That's the YU. Then if it's a fellowship, so like Early Career Award, Welcome Career Development Award, you will then need to show what you're going to develop. And are you familiar with this, the researcher development? Okay, most funders like it. So if you can say, I use this as the model for my development plan, and you have these 4 themes. Okay, fine, I'll skip through this, but you can look up. They're kind of the main units, and these are all these sub-units. But you could even use that as the model for your development plan. Oops, sorry. Something like that. So someone there at UCL has done that. They won't balk at that. It does look busy. I don't know if you think this is corny. She's here actually. I can remember her saying it. She said, "This slide looks busy because I plan to be busy." She's like, really no nonsense. I love it. But when you hear it from someone else, it's just good. It's fine. I don't argue with her. This is why I want it. She was quite direct in her answer. This is why I want this fellowship, because I will upskill in all these areas. I'll be able to do this, etc., etc. They do like somebody who's a bit full on like that. Otherwise, you could more familiar, a chronological one, a development plan over the years, via each methodology, makes sense. Sometimes either by each work package. Because surprisingly, funders can be a bit nitty. They'll say, why are you doing this course then? Because you need it for that. You think, well, maybe they have read the application. So sometimes, at least that makes sense that we're timing it all just right for the work package. And then maybe a bit more of a generic one, which I quite like. Sometimes I think it benefits to do a thematic one if it's just too overwhelming. Is it all right we're so far? Okay. Is it all right me talking so much? Do you need to be, we just get by? Okay. Final one is the most overlooked one. And yet, do you know if you go to welcome, they'll say 50% on the project, 25% person, 25% on place and research culture. And routinely, everyone I work with will just conveniently miss this. A, because they don't like to talk about research culture, and because they think that's irrelevant. But it's core of the score. So it's really, really critical. You at it's kind of at UCL, you're kind of like king and queens of the world, and yet also it's your undoing as well, because they frankly want to give grants to Halifax and Sunderland. They do. Most funders want to get away from, this Oxford, Cambridge, London. They want to get away from here. But what you've got is just too dazzling for them sometimes. So, short part of the pitch, but we've got to try and, it's all about, I think, feasibility. What access have we got to equipment, techniques, resources, facilities, expertise, maybe access to patients, maybe access to data sets. Is it the only place that's got skills to do it? We've really got to try and push that. It does want to be pushy. I think you do need to be pushy, if I'm being honest. This is the biggest grant I've ever worked on. Some of you might have seen this before. South London Waterloo Hospital Mental Health in South London. It was 85 million for a BRC. We had 1 minute to do a pitch. It was like a reminder, a 1 minute reminder, and it was all based on why this is the best place for it to be. It's really like Daily Star. We're the biggest provider of healthcare in Europe, of mental health care. Okay, our population is highly deprived. Southwark, Lambeth, so on. It's got the highest rates of psychosis in the UK. We are home to the UK's largest clinical neuroscience unit, and we're ranked first in the world for our publications on mental health. That's why it's the only place you can set this up. So the other thing for showing you that, is, do you know this thing about superlatives? I know it sounds really, really tabloid, really tabloid, but have you come across this UST test before? So I used to work at ITV, I was a training director, and the people in media, if it's got an UST in it, it gets in the news. Do you know, we just had like the driest spring on record. We just had the hottest day, the biggest, the first, the last, the greatest. But actually it works in academia too. This will be the first study of its kind. This will be the first time we've combined these techniques. So for example, this is a study on, it's a non-clinical one about anxiety. Institute of Psychiatry and Psychology, they're saying that firstly, anxiety is the most commonly comorbid psychiatric disorder. This will be the largest genome-wide association study of it, and it will be the first genome-wide association study of psychological treatment response. So they don't need to be news of the world, but firsts or supposed are quite important in research proposals. And one bit on the slide, and I'm jumping all over the place, but I'll do it now. If you've got more than 5 minutes, so to go to welcome, will you just think about making it easier for the audience? I know this is really out of nowhere, this one. This person's here, actually at UCL. She's got an early career award. See at the top it says the challenge. I think in pitches, when people are just hearing tons of talks in a row, we could do with helping them understand, and in a normal talk, where we're up to. So she's saying like movement disorders of global health challenge. So, okay, what is a phenotype? There are 5 phenotypes, 5 types of observable movement disorders. Then she's kind of saying, here's my project plan. Do you know that along the top, even though I've got a banner in the way, you can see there's these headings. Can I get rid of it? It doesn't, Okay. So I think what it says is challenge, background, project details, environment, person, impact. You can make them change, but you know, it's like having a cursor going on. You kind of know where we're up to at least. Is that all right? And on that note, do you know, in terms of place, this was her place slide. It's really concrete. So she is saying UCL is the ideal environment for me to deliver this project for 2 simple reasons. Do you know the Gatsby? You come across the Gatsby competition? Okay, so it's part of UCL, the Gatsby Computational Neuroscience Unit. It's world leading in terms of neuroscience and AI. The 2 people that founded it set up DeepMind, which subsequently they sold to Google. You can kind of sense the kind of prestige of it. There are 20 people in it roughly. She will be the first clinician who's allowed to join their ranks. So it's kind of first. I mean, when I say it doesn't sound so news of the world, then it just sounds impressive, I think. Plus, concrete, Queen Square is world leading in terms of research on movement disorders, and it's got the largest cohort of patients in the UK with a movement disorder, which means it's ideal to recruit for my clinical trial. It's really concrete. Think feasibility when you think of place. Is that all right?
Can you check the question on the chat about people? Was that answered?
Yeah, because that's essentially the second part. So how much would you talk about your personal background?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just
I know, about 20, yeah, it's about 20%. Yeah. Do you know, I'm just going to show you a few others, some are from Warwick. I like the layout, I think it's quite simple. So why Warwick Medical School? We're just picking out five key things. This one, Birkbeck, very precise again. She's doing stuff, she's non-clinical. Why Birkbeck? It's got a hub of expertise in child development. They've got a world-first facility, a toddler lab, which is kind of linked to her work. And there's a one-of-a-kind Wellcome-funded VR cave. And she will have unlimited use of it for free, which is tremendous value for money for this project. So it's not about UCL's reputation, it's concrete stuff. This one, this is something more junior to you. She's saying, really the unique thing is the 3 people who are going to sponsor her. Do you know that person? Okay, she runs UCL's world-leading digital health unit. She will be one of our sponsors. Elizabeth Murray, again, world-leading UCL's e-health unit. She'll be the other sponsor. And she's been mentored by Sonia Johnson, who runs the mental health policy research unit. She's the director. It's kind of like showcasing the power of the people who are around you. And on that note, I wonder, you had your team, could we showcase it in a bit more detail? The more junior you are, more early career, you might want to show the ambition of your project, but combine it with the expertise around you. So this guy's at Cambridge, he's saying that my primary sponsor is seen as the expert in applied research. This guy brings methodological expertise, this person qualitative expertise, and this person patient safety expertise. And I do like this. This is the person on movement disorders. I think it's neat. Look, I've got 4 world-class mentors, and in combination, they connect me to this network of expertise that provides me with sort of skills, experience, knowledge of machine learning, motor control, and movement disorder. Good slides can kind of quicken how we get information across.
Just a quick question about the phone.
Yeah.
Just, for example, I kind of read.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree.
It's
too
too
small.
small.
Yeah, no, that's a mistake. That's just too small. And there's no need, can you read that one okay? I probably wouldn't put it in that colour, if I was honest.
Yeah.
I'd change the colour. And why can't that, yeah, you're right, yeah. Because the annoying thing is if they have to work hard at all, they'll just switch off. So don't give any reason to switch off. No, you're right. Even that one, a lot of information on there, but sometimes you need to showcase the kind of range of people supporting you. You have to sometimes. The other thing to think about is if you're going on a lot of research visits or placements, I think a lot of funders really like it because they think you're building your network. Here, maybe showcase that as part of the place section. Is that all right? Just finish this bit off and then you can tell me what you think. The final thing, do you remember how you entered your pitch?
Here's my title, and then I was talking about my second slide, and then I moved to the second slide and realised I said it.
I know. Can you avoid doing anything like thanking them? Can you not say, thanks very much for inviting me, it's a pleasure to be here, I'm happy to take, can we just erase all of that?
Did I do that?
No, not really, but most people do.
I always forget to do that.
That's good. That's good.
Is
Don't
it?
do it.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
keep every second for yourself. Every second for
Because I've
yourself.
always had to write it down to say thank you for the...
Oh no, it's boring. If I'm being really honest, it's boring. Let's sell the impact of it instead. So these, you know this already. These are the kinds of impacts you can have. I think for the kind of work you're doing, if you're clinical, these are like the absolute three that you want to get in there. Who's going to benefit from your work? For patients, for clinicians, for me. If it's a fellowship, end with you. Some of these, this person is non-clinical. She's was at Cambridge and stuff on tick-borne encephalitis virus. So it's kind of for patients, I guess, longer term. It's basic science still. But to stop tick-borne getting out of control, it's for the scientific community. She's come up with these models mimicking natural infections in the brain. For her, a unique skill set, and the more broad scientific community. We've got good target audiences there. I'll just let you flick through these. That's got a bit of a superlative in there. Much more clinical based. This was for a welcome award. This is a non-clinical, it's quite punchy language, really. What are we going to do? What are we going to deliver? Novel treatments targeting mechanisms of anxiety, patients given the right treatment first time, better use of scarce NHS resources, a step check. You can guess which funder that's to. That is Welcome Trust, right treatment, Welcome Trust. It's almost corny. It's their language. The panelists, the academics don't care, but the funder does.
How do you find out what their language is?
Oh, just look at their website.
Okay.
It's listed all over. Yeah, it really is obvious. Yeah. I think if you're early career researchers, most funders are very interested in where you're going to be. They do want to see you in that story as well. So there's some superlatives in there as well. I'll just leave you with that one. Do you remember that we saw the beginning of that one? So this is an interesting one. She knew her project was probably the most expensive one they were going to see that day. So we're saying, if you fund it, 30,000 fewer people will be on opioids, which more than covers the cost of this project, which actually means, although you may think it's expensive, it's tremendous value for money. That's rare. That you're never going to argue that in basic science, but you can still show how it's value for money. Is there data already, or is the technique already set up? Is the equipment already there? Is there expertise there, and so on? So make it value for money in the way you can. Actually, I'll just leave you on that one. I think that's not a bad one. Non-clinical one. Is that all right? So I know it's been a bit of a lightning tour. Does that at least help with the three Ps? Is there any questions all done? Because all I wanted to do to sort of finish the last bit is the bit on Q&A. But did you?
Yeah, I have a question. If you're going for fellowship, and you also have to contribute, how you will develop with that funding. Sometimes, like you might only get 3 slides, right?
Yeah.
So how do you fit that all in?
I know.
And then what you need on,
for sure. Yeah.
No,
I agree. Yeah, sure. Just on that note, can I show you this one? I think, in case you do I think this is quite a nifty format. This was the KR UK, King Research UK. We only had 2 slides. Even worse. So it took us ages to do this one. But I always think, and if you do need a short version, this is quite a handy way. We've got all the first 3 minutes, you know, all of the background, the problem, the project plan, all on one. And even more important is the ease of process. So along the top, just 3 things. You know, it was 3 minutes as well. In the time it takes me to do this presentation, 70 people have died from sepsis. That's 11 million deaths a year globally, at a cost of 5 billion to the NHS. Her hypothesis, forgiving you, you're going to know, is that you know about this. She's got this hypothesis that in sepsis, the glycocalyx is damaged, leading to neutrophil activation, which leads to acute kidney injury. And her project plan is to recruit patients who have sepsis and acute kidney injury to test that. At the same time, she'll take healthy red blood cells, damage them to see if they release neutrophils, and then trial different treatments in mouse models. She did it in a more sophisticated way than me. Then, even neater, this slide, this may ultimately lead to a novel test for sepsis in health situations. It will also ultimately, further down the line, move us to treatments. It will expand knowledge for the scientific community, and it may lead to transferability in terms of malaria, cardiovascular disease. Why me and why Bristol Renal? Well, Bristol Renal is seen as world leading, she said, I think, in terms of the glycocalyx. I am actually part of the glycosave clinical trial, where we've already recruited people with sepsis in clinical situations. Part of this program and let me go to the States to get trained up in all kinds of spectroscopy, and ultimately I want to become a research leader in terms of the glycocalyx and blah blah blah. To give that amateurish attempt, she was much better. The format's not bad, so that's all we're going to get out of development. They can't expect you to have a whole slide on it.
So you're talking about pitching, and I know we're talking through like the slides and stuff, but I was wondering, like, can you maybe get some advice on, like, as a person, like, walking into the room and how you present yourself?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I think especially for people who maybe aren't naturally confident or
Yes.
charismatic, like.
Yeah. Can I be really precise? Do you mind? I know it sounds really. When I was 22 and I was at work, I had this really nightmare boss, just like the biggest bully in the world. And she kept saying to me, "You're invisible. No one pays any attention to you." I thought, what do I do then? She said, "Do these 4 things." It's like really hard, but we got on well. She basically said, "Do these 4 things every time you speak." So I do them even to this day. In a pitch, I try and do them. Number 1, sounds like your mum. Can you just have a really strong posture? Really strong posture. So do you recognise this classic piece of art? Michelangelo's David in a pose called contrapposto. It's a slouch. It is a slouch, but it's an artistic one. What we want to do is make these 3 lines parallel. So she said every time, just stand upright, knees, hips, shoulders parallel, just kind of like a sergeant major. Stand upright and hold it the whole time. Simple as that. The second one, well, like that basically. The second one is use gestures. So the first thing is, I'm not saying you have to stick your thumb up, but use gestures that people, people know that means yes, okay, fine, got it, go ahead. Use gestures that people know. It's like, why would we do that? The trajectory is, rates of type 2 diabetes have tripled 3 times in the last 6 years. We don't understand why. In the past, we would have looked to this. Now we've got to shift our attention to that. We've got rising rates of type 2 combined with increased rates of something I can't remember. These 2 have converged to lead to this. Now, 40% of people who have diabetes will develop this. We just simply don't understand the mechanics of that. So can you use a strong posture, big gestures, because the next thing is, most people want to do weenie ones. Do you know, they want to stand in a room, good posture, but all their gestures in a tiny little box. Could you expand it? So I do feel like an idiot going like this, welcome everyone. But I think it's even more dorkish to say welcome everyone. There's 3 key things I want to go. You have to sort of be bold about it. Be really bold. So strong stance, big gestures, most critical one. Everyone who I see present, nearly everyone, loves doing this. They love looking at that screen. I do too. So, good stance, a big gesture, but it just always sees people's ear. It's really hard to look that way when the audience are looking that way. So I try to think, put your back parallel to that screen, project outwards. Every time you see the audience looking there, try not to be tempted. So can we do what this guy is doing? interacting with the screen but projecting outwards. If you can. What it means is, I'm really bad at this still. This is mine, that's yours. They're the same thing. I don't need to look up there, but I am drawn to it. So strong posture, big gestures, try and look outwards. The fourth one, this is part of, see what you think. I think in a pitch this is good. So say I'm talking to you at the moment, I'll lock onto you and I'll say a piece of information. Natural pause, I'll speak to you. I'm not going to jump mid-sentence and make it go all over the place. I'm going to lock onto someone, say a natural piece to them, and then at a pause speak to someone else. Say you're giving me daggers. Sometimes on the panel they do. They just sit there withering looks. Like, sometimes, you know, really, it's really off-putting. It's really, really bad. I think I don't. Oh, thank God you're listening to me. I think I'll talk to you. Fighting person over here, so I'll go try fight with people. Say you were kind of like this. I know you're not looking like that. Who cares? Speak directly at them, and then at a natural pause, speak to someone else. Try and include everyone, you know, in the room. Okay, final one. So you think you might be told where to stand. That is the best place to stand in a pitch, I think. What you might then do, only sometimes I recommend, you know, if I hit letter B on the keyboard, I can make the screen disappear. You won't have a clicker, but if you hit B, you know, letter B when you're in slideshow, that the screen, normally the screen will completely blank. I can then stand here and I could do my sort of completely verbal style. I would do that quite a bit actually. I might top and tail it with a complete blank thing. But if you can think about those four things: stance, gestures, eye contact, and then maybe trying to be in a strong position if you can. Even if you feel nervous, you will fool yourself even. Is that a long way of answering the question? Okay. All right. Are you all right if we just, I think the Q&A is really critical. Can we do that, take 5 minutes, and then it's time for you to give any questions. Honestly, if you get called to interview, can you really try and squeeze the pitch in terms of how much time you spend on it? Spend more time on the Q&A. Okay, I know this is really basic, but there's 3 things I think you have to do.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. Just sit and think, what are they likely to ask? What is inevitable that's going to come up in terms of questions? If you get, I'm sure UCL are good at this, you get mock interviews, they will come up with those questions. And for some of the awards that you go for, you'll get peer reviews. I mean, they are full of, even though this person got the grant, you think, how could they get it? Because look, this won't be sufficient, it reduces confidence, it's not clear, they're not likely to succeed, it's, you know, they don't have sufficient experience. If you took them to heart, you wouldn't even turn up to the interview. So expect negativity, but what we want to do is combine those 3 things to get your list of questions. And then this is really precise in a way, but can you, for every single question, come up with a little mini 30-second pitch to answer it? You might have to come up with 50 30-second pitches. And this is the format that I use, that I like. It's a really simple structure where it's a format to answer a question. Apologies if I've done this with you before, but every time you get a question, can you try and answer it in 1 sentence? Answer it immediately in 1 sentence, then give 2, 3, maybe 4 points that justify the answer, and then wrap it up. I know that isn't very helpful. Can I give you a quick example? She's called Professor Anne McNeil at King's. She went to a pitch, actually it was a big one, it's £25 million for Cancer Research UK and an American cancer group. They didn't even ask a question. They said to her, you need 300,000 people in a clinical trial. It's just implausible. Not even a question, just a blunt statement. So we'll be blunt as well. We're going to say, well, I can assure you it's 100% feasible. Simple as that. Yes, no, you're wrong. It is feasible. Why do I say that? Firstly, she said, I've just finished a trial with 600,000 smokers. Double the number I need for this one. Secondly, it's powered, so even if we only got 50,000, it's still statistically relevant. And thirdly, I've got a whole track record of recruiting and retaining large cohorts. In this case, each individual has to answer 2 questions on a mobile phone. It takes under 15 seconds. I understand your reservations, but I assure you it's completely feasible. It is like putting those two fingers up at them, a little bit, but then they're difficult in a pitch sometimes. So what we want is to be able to answer questions in a pre-planned way. This is, do you know S-Lola? You come across strategic longer and larger grants. This was a team at Leeds. So we did this last year. I'm only showing you a snapshot. We predicted 70 questions. There's no pitch for this, by the way. So we knew it was all Q&A. Here's just 4 potential questions where they've said, if they ask us about work package 4, we're saying those 3 things in that order. If they ask us about mRNA loading, we're saying those 3 things in that order. And then, because there were 4 of them, they divvied it all up so they knew who was doing what. You want minimum 80 to 90% of the questions to be ones that you planned for. You can do it, you really can. The second thing is, there's not much more, don't worry. Do you know, for this one, there was no pitch, but even if there is a pitch, it's normally short and the Q&A is longer. So for this same thing, I'm going to show you 9. We actually had 30 things from the application that we wanted to say, and the only time to say it is in the Q&A. So if you think to yourself, I always do this, answer a question and add something. In other words, answer it and then say something you want to say. So all of them had that list. It was online, so all of them had that list in front of them. And any opportunity they got from a question, they might latch on that one and that one. Do you know, like weave them into your answers. So you might answer their question set, and the reason that's so feasible is because we've already got this data set that's already validated, that's already this. And the reason we're confident to do that is because one of our collaborators is X, Y, and Z. So try and take control. Does that make sense? Take control of the question a little bit. So you say what you want to say. This is Professor Talia Ely. She got the Discovery Award last year. What it would say, if you could read it, or it said, we. You can
read it on that screen.
Yes, I can. You're right. We were ready. We were ready with answers. She said to me like I'm a sort of a teacher. She's like I'm really world leading in what she does. We were ready with answers to every question and managed to weave in several of the things you said to students. Nothing they asked was a question we didn't practice. I mean, that is really ideal. But even if you got 90%, most people are just not ready for the Q&A. They're not. If you're ready for it, and if 80 to 90% you're just honestly, you'll be doing better than the others. These are very quick final points. Do I need to? Well, I'm terrible at that. I'm really bad. You know, if you've done a pitch, you're on a bit of a high. As soon as they start talking, you interrupt, or I think, yeah, I know what I'm going to say. You don't even need to finish. So just try and stay composed, really composed. You will get loads of them. I don't understand why are you doing this? Shouldn't you be doing that? Because if you do what you're going to do, isn't that going to go wrong? They can kind of get you in knots, but they're really prone in their enthusiasm to ask lots of multiple questions. So listen up for them. That is really, I used to think this is true. It's not. The more pitches I watch, the more the panel haven't read your application, and they do just make all kinds of outrageous claims. You know that's not going to work because of this, and you think, well, I'm not even doing that. So you have to be quite strong and say, actually, no, that isn't what we're doing. They do make bold claims unfairly, so be really resolute about that. Don't do that. It's difficult. Okay, 3 final ones. Keep it short. Could you aim at 45 seconds? I just don't allow your answers to go beyond 45 seconds. They're so impatient. If you do, they'll interrupt, you won't get your words out, and also you'll just feel awkward. So 45 seconds. The next one is, you're going to have to do this. You have to be free to foot. They might ask you a question, you can't really answer it, but you could tell them something slightly related. It's a silly example. A guy here got asked, do you have some experience for IP? Because your project sounds interesting, you've got a commercial spin-off. He just said, well, not really. You think, well, you can't just, you could say, listen, do I have commercial experience? No. However, my supervisor does. So I'm going to be in a lab with a professor who's got both a spin-off and experience of IP. UCLB are also prepared to mentor me if I get this fellowship. So have I got it now? No. Will I have it at the end of 3 years? Absolutely yes. You can't have to give them that you can give them. And the last one is, if you can, you can't always do this. Say the chair says this is the last question. What you want to do is answer it and somehow say, and the reason this is so important because it will allow better decision making, more opportunities for therapeutics, and ultimately for patients, longer term improvements in post-transplant care. You know, we're trying to latch on a summary or a closing statement. All right. So, yes.
I have one more question. It's
Okay.
about asking questions. So say you have an opportunity at the end to ask questions to the panel. Are there any things that can highlight yourself, but also kind of make it clear to the panel like your intentions and questions you have?
Yes. Can I say two things on that? One is when they say, "Do you have any questions?" What they are wishing is that you say no. They are desperate for you to say no. We can go. So try and definitely don't ask something trivial. I would try and avoid asking them anything. You can probably say no. I'm very clear about what happens next. But what I might try and do is, if you haven't had a chance to do it, if you haven't had a chance to do that, can you just practice a closing statement of about 20 seconds where you do just do that? You might say, "I don't have any questions, but I guess what I hope I have shown you is," and you just say it. They will give you a wry smile, but they will half expect it. And I think do it. You know, just reiterate the key messages to them.
What are your thoughts on presenting like a hypothetical patient, based on a real one? I want meet Kate. She's 5 years old. She's had the, she's been. What is that cheesy, or do you like it?
No, I would pretend it was a real patient.
Yes, it might be based on a real patient.
Yeah, do it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
but what are your thoughts on it as a?
Yeah, as long as it's not too cliched.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes a patient story is a quick in to a wider problem. Okay. I do think it is. Yeah, no, it is. Plus, you know, when you do mocks, the people here will tell you if they don't. Yeah, they will. They'll say, "Oh, it's just don't use that word, it's too common." But I will try it. I'll stay for. Can I just say one final thing? The more I've done 400 odd of these, I've stopped gambling in my own mind about who's going to get it, because I realise I can't get it right anymore. Do you know these Discovery Awards? The best two I worked on, people were just really gifted. Even I can tell they're gifted, and they didn't get it. And I just cannot understand it. And two people I worked with who I thought were hopeless. If I'm realised one guy said it's just useless, and he rang me and said, "Yeah, I've got it." And I blurted out, almost blurted out, "How?" So I don't. And I got told off at an event the other day by Styles and saying pitching is a little bit of a lottery, and someone from the MRC was like saying, "No. It's a scientific process. It's rubbish. It's not a scientific process." It really isn't. Why give someone 5 minutes to do a pitch on a massive piece of research with all the sort of prejudices that could be in a panel, people from rival institutes? So all I'm saying is we be resilient. Loads of these people have had to go back twice. You have to. You just have to accept knockbacks, which you probably know. But don't think your idea is not good because they don't fund you. On another day, it would get funded.
In one of my grants, I had a mock panel. When I presented to, they all looked with blank faces saying, "I'm the real interview. Maybe it's salvageable." So then I went to the real interview and got glowing reports back from them, which I couldn't understand because I thought it was a pilot problem. Yeah. And the reviewers gave me mixed. It was just completely random.
Yeah, for sure.
Different things from.
This will be the last thing. I'd say the commonest thing I hear from people is that they'll say, "I'm not doing any more mocks." Because people in so many institutes think mock is trying to beat someone up. They'll say it's good for you because it will be worse now than the real thing, but often they just demoralize and they're unrealistic.
It wasn't just that, none of the questions in the mock turned
No,
up
exactly.
in the real thing.
Yeah,
Not
I
even
know.
one.
Yeah, I know. Or there'll be people from your area saying detail on that, more detail on that, more. Yeah. Yes. I would be, if it were me, I'd be a bit more controlling about the mocks, about what you want from the mock.
I mean, I tried to be take different people from different areas, so I don't end up
really
biasing, but it still didn't work.
I know.
But the reviewers of the grant funders, also the reviewers gave such mixed
That's
reviews.
really
I couldn't really tell.
Really, I
what's
had someone
going
from
on.
Welcome the other day. The top one is outstanding, and then unfundable, and then another one. What do you do? But that's common. So don't be put off if you get a bad review. The panel will they'll look beyond that, I think. Anyway, I don't want to delay you. I'll stay here for a little while, but thank you very much for joining online or coming face to face. I hope there's at least something you can take away.
Thank you.